great expert with us today. Just for beginners and these guys who visit our webinars for the first time, we are one of the biggest educational hub in digital marketing on Udemy. We are teaching about digital marketing for 15 years. As agency, we are Google Premier partner, Facebook marketing partner, TikTok partner. And if you have any issues with your digital marketing, you can keep in touch with us. You can message us and we will help you with audit, with SEO audit, PPC audit, start your SEO, PPC, and launch your analytics, etc. Today, we will talk about how to grow your business and use such tool as Figma. Just a few words about us. We are long-term on this market and we have both agency business and educational business. Today, if we talk about our Udemy approach, we have 331,000 of Udemy students. You can find in our profile very easy, just go by this QR code or type in Anton Wareniuk in Google and you will get to our Udemy profile. Right now we have 17 courses on digital marketing, on web design and other topics, and we have 10 more in production, and maybe a few of them we will get till the end of the year. If we talk about today's guest, it's our great speaker in Figma, Željko Milivojević, and Željko will share his expertise about Figma. Before I will give the word to Željko, I want to talk a little bit about his great course. We just launched it 1 month ago. We have right now 5,000 students. It has very, very good reviews. We have 4.7 reviews on this course. You can go to the course and read the ratings. There are a lot of guys who told that this course was really good for them, and you can check all these reviews here and share your own experience if you finish this course, because we really appreciate the feedback, we really appreciate your reviews, and we try to make our product better and more engaging for you. So just for a few seconds, I will give the word to Željko. Who is Željko? Željko is a guy who 8 years in digital marketing and web design, and he is a really great expert in the design. He is focused on mobile, web design, and brand identity. His experience and portfolio is not about just some local markets. He's working with clients and the biggest enterprise companies in Europe, in the United States, and across the world. You can find his portfolio on Dribbble and learn more about this guy that will share today a lot of really fruitful insights about how to start your career and how to use Figma to grow and to make the web design easier and better. So Željko, hi, how are you?
Hi, Antonio, I'm doing great. Nice to meet you all. So yeah,
it was really my pleasure to have you today with us.
Yeah,
I think that you will have some great insights for our audience.
Yeah, correct? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I read the questions. I read the people that they want to see. So yeah, we are going to talk about everything today. So yeah, maybe I can start with providing the information about me at the start. So as Antonio said, I'm the designer and I'm working mostly in the Figma. Figma is my go-to tool for designing the great projects that I did with many clients. So, and in this webinar, we are going to talk about this tool. So I think I can share the screen right now and talk about the Figma, tell its own qualities, show you some few things around, and maybe tell you what you are going to learn in the course if you purchase. So yeah, let me share my screen and hopefully everyone is going to see it. So Figma is the free tool, so you can just go to the figma.com, create your account with ease. And when you load up the Figma for the first time on your personal device or on your browser, you are going to see this screen right here. And there's many ways to see the projects. There's many things to do right here, but I will go through the basics. So if, for example, we can go to the new file, and then when it's loaded, we are going to see this screen right here. So we have a toolbox on the top, we have our layers on the side, we have also our pages, and on the right side, we have our adjustment for everything that we are going to create. So mostly Figma is user interface builder. It doesn't need or it doesn't require any knowledge of coding to design anything. And most of the websites that you are going to design, especially in our course, is going to be responsive. So everything that you are going to see on the screen of your computer, you are also going to see it properly on your devices. So everything that you can do in the Figma is responsive as well. So there's many features, for example, to go to the move and scale few things. There is frame section that I think it's most important tool. There is to create around the shapes. So for example, rectangle, line, arrow, ellipse, polygon, stars, and also to place the pictures as well. Of course, we have our pen tools and pencils. We have our typography tool, so we can type. We have our recessors, so there's components, plugins, and widgets. There's so many useful stuff in the Figma, and the community is just amazing. They're providing everything for free. So most of the stuff that you are going to see here, you can just go and search for anything that you want. You want to implement the maps on your screens, you can just type the plugin maps or something like that. You want to implement the icons, you want to see or implement great stock pictures that are free to use. You can just type everything right here. There's hand tool normal, and of course we have our feedback tool. So mostly when you're working as a freelancer, you are going to work alone possibly, but if you're working or part-time or full-time in some company, there are going to be companies that you're going to work with multiple people. So you're going to use this tool on there. So for example, if you want to create the shapes, you can just easily click on some shape, hold the left click and create anything that you want. And we can see the layer is created on the left side, and we have our rectangle right here. So for example, if you are on Windows computers, you can just hold the control to outzoom and zoom with the wheel keys, move around with holding the wheel key around. And then on the right side, you have your dimensions, width for the objects, and etc. So most of the time, you're going to design the website in that rectangular shape. You're going to use the frames, and you're going to place the rectangles and then fill them with some pictures or change some gradings, for example. So we have really similar options to Photoshop and all of those programs. So if you're familiar with any photo editor or something like that, it's going to be really easy to adapt on the Figma as well. So you just click on this side right here. And when you display your color pop-up, you can just change the color easily. You can change the hue of the color and etc. So that's literally the basic function of the Figma, how to create the shapes, but there's many things to do. For example, when you start the projects and you want to create something really great, what you can do is create the wireframes. So Figma presents you their wireframe method, and I think it's also great for anyone who wants to start it. Wireframes contains really basic shapes and basic information about the website. So as we can see, we have the wireframe for our navigation bar, our headings, our features, and etc. So you build your website in this simple term and then move to the other pages to build other sections. And you can just go to the assets, for example, go to the hero section and just move everything around. So those features are really great in the Figma because you have your assets and you can just, when you create something, it's going to be reusable throughout the whole interface. So Figma is really great in that term as well. So as you can see, this is the wireframes. In our course, I used other application that's called Whimsical. And why I did that, because it may have some faster learning features for the wireframes. So you can easily just create the headings. You can easily just implement the buttons. You don't need to create, for example, 2 different shapes for this button. You don't need to create the rectangle and then implement the text inside it to create the buttons. You just go and drag and drop. And that's maybe also the future of all those interface builders, is just the drag and drop feature and changing few stuff around. So let me show you maybe what we did on our course and how I structure everything. And I think that's great to know how to structure your project properly. So when you start your project, you want to know the mood board. You want to create that and you want to know the feeling for the website. So of course, we are going to have multiple pages. We are going to have our mood boards. We are going to have our wireframes, web view, mobile view, and design systems. So when we go on our page mood boards, as we can see, I went to the dribble and searched for many different stuff that I want to create in my design. So I wanted to create some financing website. So blue color can represent that really well. And I try to find other designs that are similar to my design, that are going to be similar to my design. And then after that, you can change your text styles. The websites are structured usually when you have the headings, you have your body, you have your paragraphs, and also you have your color styles, and you have your grid styles. Why we are doing this? It's because we want to reuse every single element throughout the whole interface. So for example, if we type something, we type some big text on the start of the page, we don't need to change the font and the sizing of that text again and always. We just click on that text, select our style, and that's it. And I'm going to show you that later. So after the mood board, what you're going to do with the clients or with the projects, you're going to create your wireframes. So what we created is a web view and a mobile view for the website. And sometimes it's just a matter of understanding your website. You want to have navigation bar, you want to have your heading, logos, then features, some clickable click to action buttons, and etc. So that's the most important way to structure your website. You start with mood boards, you went to the wireframes, and then design like that. And as you can see, in our project, we have 5 different pages. And it was really easy to design. When you have the web view for each page, you just easily scale it down. And that's how I created my project in this course as well. When you have your responsive features, and most important feature in the Figma is auto layout, and I'm going to talk about it later, it's really easy to design everything. So also another thing what is important is design system. I will leave these 2 pages at the last. So for the design system, as I said, we set up our colors, we set up our headings, or our text. We implemented the icon system that we used in our website. And that icon system, we downloaded it free from the Figma community. So as I previously said, everything that we are going to do is going to be free. And of course, we designed our CTA buttons, and those are assets. And you can reuse them throughout the whole interface, as I said, and you can just change them around because there's 3 different buttons, but there's only one asset for the button. So when you drag it to the interface, you go to it and change maybe to the empty state, you change to the empty state. Change it to the outline, you change to the outline settings. So that's how we created our website, and that's how you should structure your website as well. So you want to play with the variants, you want to play with all those things and assets that can really ease your process. So if the clients want some changes, but you don't want to change every single stuff exactly the same in your website. For example, he wants some changes in the navigation bar and you have 50 pages website. It's going to be hard to change for every single page again and duplicate it. You just go to design system, you just change it here, and it's going to be changed throughout the whole interface. So that's how we systemize our website design, and it's going to make your life working as a designer really easy. So those are design assets that we reuse throughout the website. And this is the change when we go from the wireframes to the website. This is how the web view look. So we use our dimension of 1440 pixels size. Most of the stuff and most of the times you're going to design as that size, because if you design maybe for 1000 or 920 for that full screen type or something like that, you're always going to have the website in the middle. It's not going to be stretched out, and then it's going to look really bad on some cases. So you're going to use this universal resolution for everything. And as I said, we have structured every single stuff. So we have our home, and then we have our navigation bar, hero, companies, features, why they should choose us, discover, and footer. And most of those stuff are usable throughout the interface. And as I said, it's auto layout. So most of the stuff you can just place them around. For example, we click on this and we can just move it around. We can change many stuff. If we want to change this on the top, we just move it to the top. It's really easy when you structure your website perfectly. And every time you're going to change something, it's going to be really easy. So that's how we did that. We have our big section, and then behind that section, we have two sections, for example, for this big hero section. And then on that left section, we have our frame 1 and frame 2. And on the right side, as we can see, there's many things changing. And that right side, as I said, is property settings. And then we have our auto layout, most important feature. And when we auto layout few stuff, as we can see, there's spacing between the items. So those two items are in auto layout. So if we just change the distance, it's going to change the distance in the auto layout. So that's maybe one of the most important features in the Figma. If you master the auto layout, you're definitely going to be really experienced designer, and you can charge your websites even more that you can. So when we go to the next page, as we can see, there's many stuff that we can reuse from the other pages, because when you build your foundation, your project is going to be done really fast. And sometimes the client is going to be really thankful for that. So you can just use all those features easily with your website. So as we previously said, we have our navigations, frames, choose us, frames, and footers, and etc. Okay. And also we have this page right here, exactly structured perfectly. Blog pages, for example, it's structured really nicely. You can design some really different stuff. For example, this is too wide for this or something like that, or design big buttons on the bottom. It all depends on what you want to create. For example, this thing right here. Some designers doesn't know how to design these cards and how to change it from the different other one. So we went through every single details. We have our frames on that, how we structured that, how we created that button, and etc. And I think I could today show you how to create maybe some simple stuff for the auto layout, maybe how to create your button, for example, or something like that. And then after that web view, what we did is mobile view. And as you can see, the mobile view is exactly the same as the web view, but it's stretched down. But we didn't lose any details or information for the website. So anything that you build for the web view, it should be scalable to the mobile view. And we did that with ease. We did 384 pixel size. So we went down around 1,000 pixels in our width, and we still have this exactly the same information for the website. So that's the power of auto layout and how to manage your website really perfectly. And we have our margins on the side. So we did everything as it should be. And so as you can see, it's exactly the same website. Those cards on this pricing page is exactly the same, just toned down. So yeah, that's maybe the most important feature for the Figma is that auto layout option. And as I previously talked about, the design system is reusable. We have our assets. So if we go to the web view and we want to import something else, for example, footer, we can import it easily. We want to implement a navigation bar, we can implement it really, really easy. And as I said previously, if you change some stuff on the design system, for example, you go here on navigation bar and change its color, for example, to this blue right here. And okay, it doesn't look great. But what I'm going to show you is that every single navigation bar on our website is now changed. So that's the power of our design system and how it should be structured perfectly. So that's the way that I'm teaching. Probably other people are designing differently, and sometimes you're going to go to the other people project if you're working in the team, and sometimes they're going to design some stuff around different than you. But this is maybe the most universal way of designing everything, and this is maybe the most appreciated way, because if you have everything in that order, everything is scalable, everything is responsive. Clients and other people are going to really appreciate that. Also, what I talked about in our course is how we designed this design right here. It's really important to have a great design portfolio. It's really important to have beautiful designs, and how to present them is also really important. So as we can see here, we have our image that we previously designed. This is some old design that I did previously, and I implemented it right here, implemented some effects to make a drop shadow, to make it more pop out from the background. And then I implemented the radial gradient. So sometimes you're not going to use the linear, you're going to use the radial gradients. And it's really important to just make everything simple. If you are trying your hardest to create the most complicated websites, you are designing every single section is different, you have dozens of colors, it's going to be really hard to manage all of that, and you're going to feel unsatisfied. And of course, when you're starting your projects, and it's going to be really hard at the beginning, but as I said, just structure everything in order. As I said, you have your headings right here. When you have that, you're almost half done your design system, and then you implement your color styles and then grid styles, and you are done. As we can see, we have our grids, and our website is perfectly aligned with grids, every single element. So you can design everything in that order. So what I can show you is some maybe exercise or some maybe features that is really important, and that's auto layout that I talked about previously. And that's maybe how to create that call to action button. And this is call to action button. It's most important button on your website, and that button converts your maybe viewers to the customers. So if you have your website and you don't have your CTA buttons or call to action buttons, your website is not going to work properly, because most important stuff for the website is to convert people. I mean, sometimes that sounds not very good, but I mean, for the businesses, it's great. And I think it keeps everything in order as it should be. So the most important stuff is to convert people on your website. And your website is literally an advertisement for your service, for your products. So what you need is really great call to action button. And it's really easy to design it in the Figma. So what we can do is go on our text. For example, I'm going to design it in this page or in this project. It doesn't really matter. And then we are going to type something. For example, welcome. Or for example, you can type anything, login today or something like that. It doesn't really matter, but sometimes you're going to have the copywriters for your websites already. It all depends if you are working with one client or multiple clients. Sometimes you need to know the copywriting stuff for the website, so it all depends. But for example, let's stick with login today or something like that. Or we are just going to type simply download now. Okay, so we have our text, and I'm going to uncheck everything that we previously did. So when we click on our text, we have this blue box around it, and that's our height. It's 24 pixels. Usually the designers doesn't know this rule, and it's 4-point grid. So everything that you design should be divided by 4. So sometimes you're going to design something and you want to scale it down. That's how we did our website. Everything is divided by 4. Most of the features are divided by 4. As you can see, this width of this section, that sometimes it doesn't matter, sometimes it's matter, it's 640. And its height is 384. Everything is perfectly heighted as it should be, because we have our distances that are divided by 4, and we have our text that are divided by 4. As you can see, 64 height, here is 216 height, for example. For these buttons, 48 height. So everything should be divided by 4. That's maybe the most simple stuff that you can import in your website. And as you can see, we have our text styles and all of them are divided by 4. So that's really important thing to know. So when you have your text and you choose your font, for example, this Inter font, what you can choose then is a variable for it. Font, for example, if you choose the Inter, and that's maybe my go-to font for every single project. I mean, of course, you're not going to use the same font for every single project, of course, but that's maybe the most universal typeface or the font that you are going to use in your projects. And for the buttons, there are many things that you can implement. You have your thin, you have your lightweight text, you have your bold text, you have black text, and people always overcomplicate that. If you're a beginner, you should always stick to something in the middle when you're designing. That black doesn't really look great if you have something small like this button, so we should stick something in the middle. Regular is okay, I think, and sometimes that's maybe your go-to to design everything irregular. But for example, we can choose this medium. It's slightly bolder than a regular, but I think it does really great job. And then when you go here, we have our font size. Now the font size is not exactly the same as we talk about for the line height. If, for example, if we have our rectangle on the right side and we create it 24 by 24, if we have our text right here, you can see the text is not exactly the same size as this rectangle, but that doesn't really matter when you're designing. For example, this is some picture or this is some element. You want your whole text, this box, to be exactly the same as other elements, or to be more precise, to be divided by 4. So it doesn't really matter if your text is, for example, 18, still your line height is 24. If your text is, for example, 10 size, still stays the same. So we are going to stick by the 16 and 24 line height. I don't usually change this. It's a letter spacing. It's how letters are far from each other, but I always keep it at 0 and this paragraph spacing at 0, especially for the CTA buttons. And now, of course, we have our width, heights, and fixed sizes. We have our text alignments and etc. And we can change it maybe to the center because that's the call to action button, and usually it's in the center. So what you can do is go to the text, and there's 2 ways to create the CTA buttons. It's to use the auto layout option, and it's to use the rectangle. We are going to use the rectangle option, and then I'm going to show you how to use the auto layout feature. So when you have your text and we are going to design maybe some rectangle behind it, what we are going to do is just change the order for the layer and place it behind that. And for example, let's set the height for it, maybe 60, for example, or maybe just 48. It doesn't really matter. And then change it. As you can see, we have these orange lines. We can remove this element. We have those orange lines that we can see, and we can place it in the middle. If you hold your Alt key on your Windows machines, you can see the distance between this, and it's 29. I mean, for now, it doesn't really matter, and that's why I talk about the auto layout. You need to calculate everything if you're trying to do it like this. You need to, okay, I need to have 172, for example, or something like that to be divided by 4, and I'm not sure is that divided by 4. But for example, let's say it is, and you need to place it around, you need to, oh, what if I misclick it or something like that? So that's maybe the slow way to design some buttons. And of course, you can change the color to some blue, for example, or something like that, some purple. You can change and around the corners. But I think the best way is to use auto layout. So I'm going to remove this rectangle. And then what I'm going to do is add the auto layout. So if we click on this text and we use the Shift A, or you can just right click on it and you can see the shortcut right here. You can create auto layout. And as you can see, we now have our frame. So we have this box around it, but how does that box work? It's this thing right here. So what we have is to have the vertical direction and horizontal direction for every single element that's inside this box. So this box, it shouldn't be only for the buttons. If we duplicate this text with Control D, you see there's multiple elements. So it doesn't really matter if it's a CTA button or some frame or some element that you're going to use on the website. If you change your direction, you're going to have your elements changed as well. But we are going to remove it right now and stick with everything that we previously did. So let's set it to the horizontal direction, of course, because it's a button. And now we have this thing is spacing between the items. So if you have your icon, for example, that's inside this element, you are going to have the distance set right here. For example, you can set it, for example, 8 pixels or something like that. And now we have your horizontal padding, vertical padding. That's the things that are around our objects. So as we can see on left and the right, there's 10 pixels horizontal. And when we have on the vertical, it's also 10. So for example, what we can do is change it to the 12, for example, on the size, and change it to the 16 on the top and the bottom. You can change it, as you can see, if we click on this function right here, you can change for each side. But as I said, don't try to overcomplicate everything, just stick with basics. And then what we are going to do is this alignment right here. So for example, if you have some box, this is how the things are going to be aligned in this box. So you can go to the center alignment right here. And now this icon is changed to the center. So what we can do next is, for example, just to change the background, for example, for this icon. Maybe you can change it to whatever you like. And what you can do is add a fill, because this is the empty frame. And now you can change it to the maybe this blue or something that you want. It doesn't really matter. It's most important stuff is that you have your frame. And now it doesn't really matter if you change your text or not. If you just type anything that you want, you see how this frame is going with the text. So if you change it to the one letter, it sticks with this. So this is just a basic feature for the auto layout, and you can use it exactly as you want. For example, you can auto layout in auto layout. So if you have this auto layout feature right here, if you duplicate it, you can just see what's happening. So you have many things to do with this auto layout feature, and I think it's really important to understand it. Those are really just the basic stuff. It's up to you how you're going to learn it the easiest way. I showed you some exercises, big exercises, and especially our biggest exercise is this website right here, and everything is auto layout in this website. So yeah, it's all up to you how you are going to implement in your design. But I think that's maybe the most important feature for the Figma and how you are going to use it. And for example, what we can do is create this portfolio, and maybe to show you how I did it. So usually it all depends on what you want to create on the social media. For example, Dribble accepts these dimensions right here, 1600 by 1200. So if you are going to create some frame, you can just create it like this and type the 1600 by 1200. Then you can change the fill to whatever you like. It all depends. You can just use the basic gray, or maybe just black, or maybe have some linear gradients and change them like this, for example, to have some direction for that gradient. And what you can do is maybe lower the opacity. You don't need really big gradients, big contrast gradients. You can just use it with the simple features. And then what you can do is just create some rectangle or maybe design something inside that. For example, some website, you can just implement it. You can just easily corner use the corner radius. For example, 16, as I previously said, most of the stuff are going to be divided by the 4. So you can just do it like this, or maybe type 24. And then there's other feature, for example, as effects. So there's effect as drop shadow. And what you can do as a drop shadow is to change a few stuff around. Most of the designers just leave it as it is. And while I'm talking to designers, maybe some beginners are going to use it as that, but I'm going to leave it normally. So I want to change maybe to something that you are going to see, maybe this light color. And as you can see, we have this harsh shadow, and shadows doesn't work like that in real life. We want to have some smooth shadow that's going to work in our design really great. But also we don't want to change it really. We don't want to change the details too much, because also developers needs to design everything. So what we are going to do is not change this X direction. We don't want this. We just need in one direction, and that's to the bottom. We just change it slightly like this. We blur it out, for example, like this. You can spread it maybe behind and maybe use it like this, because if you spread it too much, it looks bad. But you can also spread it like this, for example, to not go over these sides. So just to be underneath, and then maybe lower the opacity for that, for something like this, for example. And as you can see, this looks much, much better and much, much realistic than the shadows that most designers are using in the projects. So that's maybe my most important stuff that you, when you start your design. Of course, there's many stuff to do in the Figma, but those important features are must to learn. It's really just a matter of time and practice, but try and learn auto layout. And of course, that auto layout section is in our course. So, I mean, the left things that we can do is answer the questions that are left by the people for this webinar. So I would like maybe Anton to share the questions with me.
Sure, I need the screen and I'll share the screen. Željko, it was like no code magic. What you was doing, it's really beautiful. I'm not a web design expert and you're doing great things. So I'll share the screen and we will run through the questions we have from our audience. Guys, today we have small giveaway for you. If you want one person to get this course from Željko for free, you can follow us on Instagram and on you can Željko design, like and comment our last post on Instagram, and the winners will be announced after the webinar on our Instagram. So I will give you just a few seconds and to scan this QR code or to find us on Instagram. Željko, the first question from me, what are your the most lovable features on Figma? What do you really love in it?
Okay, so as I talked about previously, I mean, the first thing is auto layout. I think that feature is really different from the other design tools that are on the market. So auto layout is really important. The next feature is, let's call it feature, is a community. Figma is amazing community that's really helpful, and you have amazing people on there that can really help with your designs. You have amazing plugins, you have amazing kits that can help you and improve quickly. And of course, as we said, we have many tutorials for the Figma, so Figma is also really easy to learn. So maybe that's my 3 features. It's auto layout, community, and ease of use.
That's really great. Let's go to our audience questions. Guys, for everyone who registers for certificate, you can go to our website, skillsbooster.net, and get the certificate. And now we have questions from our students. So how can I improve my design skills? You are experienced designer. What can you suggest to our audience, Željko?
Yeah. I mean, the question is really broad for everyone. I mean, it all depends on what you mean by design skill. But for example, if we stick by for example, website design or something like that, it's really important to have your structure. It's really important to have great foundation before starting everything. So as I said, set your design system in place, set everything simple. Don't try to overcomplicate everything. Don't try to have the different shadow for everything. Don't try to have the different corners for everything. Don't try to copy. Don't try to copy non-developed projects, because sometimes you're going to see not real projects on the Dribble and most of the websites. So be careful with all of those stuff for anyone who is starting out.
Okay, I think that is a great piece of advice, and we have the next one question. What are the best features in Figma? I've already asked them, so we can go to the next one. What are your top favorite fonts?
It all depends on the project. I mean, there's no like one font that can
the best of the best,
yeah, there's no like best font for every single thing that you are going to use. There's font that you're going to use for marketing, there's font that you're going to use for the designing mobile applications, there's font that you're going to use for the headings. So for example, Inter is font that we used in our project, and it's maybe the most universal font. It's simple and it's also free. There's like Helvetica, there's like San Francisco, there's Apple, that's the Apple font. There's like Playfair Display, there's Poppins, there's Product Sense, and many more fonts that I cannot think about. So yeah, it all depends on the usage case, and don't try to overcomplicate your life with the fonts. So stick with basics. And you can find every single font on Google Fonts. You just go on there, download the family, and it's going to be free to use as well.
So your advice is to simplify it, and I think that is the right advice. What are the fundamental rules that every designer should know?
It all depends on, I mean, as a designer, you need to be creative. You need to be inspired every day to design something.
And how do you inspire? Where do you find your inspiration?
Yeah, I mean, some people are going to find the inspiration in books. Some people are going to find inspiration in movies. It doesn't really matter. You can be inspired for some movies and design the website around that movie.
And what is the main source of inspiration for Željko?
I mean, that's the website that I have my portfolio on. It's Dribble. I think it's the best source, and it's easy to access source of inspiration. There's many great designers on there. So I mean, the first thing, it should be like that, inspirational and be creative. Also, the rules are not to be hard on yourself. Of course, you're sometimes going to be happy with your design, and then you go on the other websites and you see, okay, I'm not a great designer, but don't worry, you have your years in front of you. You're going to learn everything great, as we talked about in our website, and I showed you the examples of what should you follow and how you should approach all of those stuff. So maybe that's most important question, just to be creative. Fundamentally, it's just creativity practice, and don't be hard on yourself.
Great, looks like a plan. What are the critical mistakes made by UI designers?
Yeah. So as I previously said, usually you're not going to create big mistakes if you are intermediate or expert. When you're in that sphere, it's mostly about the subjective stuff. Oh, we don't like that color, we should choose that. We don't like that sizing, we should do that. It's not about the then it's not about the fundamentals. But most mistakes are made when you're starting your website. And as I previously said, Dribble is great inspiration website, but sometimes some designers look only for those examples, and they design really undesignable, undeveloped websites, undeveloped applications. So those are critical. One first mistake is they use the wrong inspirations. Also, another is they don't simplify their process. You really need to simplify everything. Also, other thing is about the financing. When you're working with the client, you should start with 50% upfront and then use a 50% rule at the end. So if you start your project, clients pay 50% upfront, and when you are finished, then you're going to be paid 50% at the end upon providing that design file that you are going to use. Maybe that's not the UI, that's mostly for the broad, but I had some experience at the beginning of my career that wasn't really great. So try to be careful with all of those stuff. So that's maybe for the financing stuff.
Great. Thank you for your experience. And we have the next question. Is Figma enough as a tool for UX and UI designers? What tools do you use in your career too?
I think for the UX and UI design, Figma is the best tool for that sphere. So there's many great tools, of course, like Adobe XD, Framer, and all of those stuff are great, but I think Figma is enough of a tool.
Thanks, Željko. Do we need any coding skills to become UX UI designers?
Yeah,
coding is a thing that makes upset a lot of people. Yeah. So do we need to be upset, Željko?
Yeah. I think that's really common question. As a designer, there's many people that really want to know, do we need to know the code? How I approach this is that you just learn basic of the basics, how the websites are structured, and that's it. You don't even need to type the code. You don't even need to learn how everything is designed. Just try to learn about the div blocks sections, and that's what we did in our course. It's just the basic fundamentals that are going to set you for your career.
Thank you. And the next question, what's the most effective way to create a website design that attracts users and can earn high revenue?
Yeah.
What conversion rate optimizations tricks maybe you can share with us?
Yeah. So as I talk about when I was designing and showing you examples, the most important thing for the website is to attract the customers and create the revenue. So your most important thing is to have clear vision for the website, clear message, and clear call to action buttons. So when you go on the website, you have everything clear in front of you. When you go to search for some courses, you have everything cleared for you. You really understand what you're going to earn from that website, from that service, from that product. So I mean, that's maybe the most simplest way to describe it. Have a clear message for the website and don't try to follow every single trend on the internet. Stick with basics.
Again, simplify, try to make it simple. To try to do something complicated is easy. To make something simple, it's really not easy for people. So the importance of the user experience in the OTT industry, the over-the-top media service offered directly to the viewers via the internet. Please share your thoughts. It's like the niche question. Maybe you have some ideas.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. I never thought about that question. I mean, ever. It's OTT industry, and as far as I can know, that's maybe for those streaming services, that's for media that we are consuming. And user experience, I mean, user experience is totally different than user interface, but to be great user interface designer, you also need to be great user experience designer. So what's really important is that literally in the naming user experience, I think that's really important. So don't try to overcomplicate everything. Don't try to maybe have multiple steps for some things that shouldn't be done. You have clear access to your service. You have your clear vision for the service. And of course, you have great design for that service. So importance for the user experience in that industry is, of course, just try to provide the best possible solution for your client. And of course, great competition is always going to move the market in the right way.
Thank you for your tips for this niche. A lot of our students, they are just starting, but they are going to be freelancers. They are going, some of them maybe will start their own design agency. So how to get clients after learning? So people are running through your course, they are going to Upwork, Fiverr, or somewhere and start searching for clients. What tips you can get in this case?
Yeah, we have that section in our course that I talk about that, but as I can simplify that solution, it's mostly your portfolio. Your portfolio is literally everything that clients are going to see. It doesn't really matter if you're a freelancer, it doesn't really matter if you're trying to find the full-time or part-time job. It's really important to show the best skills to the world and to the people that are going to see you. So create a great portfolio and upload the designs that are going to attract the clients. So I mean, that's maybe the most important stuff. The question is really big as well, and because there's many ways to get the clients. There's you can talk with your family. Oh, does someone needs the website? Or you can talk with people that you know in your company, or you can share with on the social medias, or you can just go on LinkedIn, Fiverr, Upwork, and try to find work on there. There's many ways to find a job, and there is always going to be people and clients for your design.
I can add here two examples from our agency. The first thing which is really works, it's clients reviews and success story. If you have few of them, you can ask clients to do it. So you can give them additional discount, some value to do something for free them, and get the video content like their reviews, any kind of success stories. It works really good. And we have the next question. What are the trends in web design for 2022, 2023? Maybe for 2023.
I mean, we are also approaching the 2023. There's many trends that are going on the design industry. I mean, the trends are always changing. So there's many trends that come and go. Some stick with us. For example, there's that glassmorphistic design with those glass effects and shadows. There's that vintage type of the website with bright colors and strange text, not in the bad way, of course, but that really creative way of designing. I think the animations for the websites is another trend. I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's web design trend, but that's one thing that was implemented in the web design recently. So great animation for the website, that smooth experience, smooth scroll. I think those trends are going to stick with us maybe for next few years.
Željko, thank you for the trends. And we have the question, what is the future of graphic design? Do you see that everything, a lot of specialists in digital marketing, in IT, they are afraid that robots will kill their work, artificial intelligence, no-code solutions. Do you think that the graphic design will die or not?
I understand the concern. You can just type AI generated images on the Google or something like that and create anything that you want. But I think the fundamentally is that way of how people think and how humans work. There are going to be more no-code tools and no-code web builders that are really going to improve that work from Figma and all of those websites. But in the near future, I don't think the graphic design is going to die by any percent. I think it's going to even explode more because of this more of use the internet and all of those access to the internet. So I don't think those tools and us as graphic designers aren't going anywhere soon.
We have the next question. Will the live webinar be recorded and the link sent to our emails? Sure, guys, all webinars are recorded. You can find the link. And if you want to get the certificate, just scroll a little bit forward and you will see the QR code that will bring you to our Skills Booster website and you will get the certificate. So maybe it was the last but not the least. Željko, we have some more questions in chat. We have guys from Pakistan, India, Ukraine, And we have the question from Digital Tech, not from Digital Tech, but from Mateo Radham. When making designs for web purposes, is it better to just make them for 1080p than for 1440p, like in the webinar? What is your recommendation about this?
Yeah. As I said, if your clients or your client wants your website to be responsive, that resolution that I implemented in my designs, it's maybe the most universal, but it doesn't mean that content is going to be resized to that resolution. It's just that frame or that window is going to be by that resolution. But that's what I'm saying by learning the code and that basic fundamentals of the code. That's why you need to understand how the section works and how the container works. So the sections and containers are going to be fixed for maybe 1120 or something like that. So I think that my resolution is maybe the most universal.
Guys, we already finished. If you will have any other questions, we will be happy to get them. We will be happy to have you on our course. You can get the link to the course and other bonuses using this QR code and other presentation. We will mail them to all registered users, so you will get it. Today, you can get one with free access to the course Figma Design Course 2022. You need just to follow us on Instagram, on Branyuk, Željko Design, like and comment our last post, and you will find the details on Instagram. So if we talk about our other plans, we will talk about certifications. The next our webinar will be on the 8th of November. We have new wonderful course about how to get Google Analytics certified. And if you want to know what other certification can be helpful for you to make your digital marketing career better, to succeed in digital marketing, don't hesitate to use this QR code, visit our webinar. And I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for Željko. Željko, it was a really great experience and great webinar. I'm happy that we have such fruitful collaboration with this course. And I hope to see it on the first page of the category next month.
Yeah.